the MojoDojo.
What the heck is going on in the guitar market? In today's podcast, that's what we're going to talk about a little bit. And it's a little bit scary. I would say it has overall been negative, at least in my experience for the last year. Well, it's got its ups and downs. It's had its moments, but overall, I would say it is a buyer's market right now, and it has been slightly negative. And so that's what I want to talk about. I have worked in this industry for over 10 years. And I've seen a lot of changes. I've sold a ton of guitars. And right now is the biggest buyer's market that I have ever seen. Meaning, what do I mean by that? People are making offers like crazy. People are not buying guitars at the listed price. Like, for instance, if I send somebody an offer on Reverb, people are usually not taking that offer or counter-offering with a lower offer. Because they know if the market is flooded, there are way too many guitars. We're seeing some real changes here. In brick and mortar, we're seeing some real changes. We're seeing a lot of retail stores go under, mine included, the one I work for included. We're seeing big name companies go under or in serious financial trouble, and we'll talk about all that. But in 10 years, I've not seen as much of a buyer's market as the one that we're currently in. Economics may have a good role in this. Talk about that. I'm not like an economic strategist or anything like that. But just from my experience of what I've seen and what some of my peers and I have talked about. Real changes indeed. And I'm not trying to be all like doom and gloom in this episode. I don't want to like come across like, oh, the end for guitars is nigh, because I don't think so. I think that it's just changing. I don't think people are ever going to stop playing guitar. I think that it's just changing in some ways and evolving, and even with technology and just with the way that money is right now. It's pretty freaking crazy. And I think prices on a lot of gear is just absolutely too high, where people just aren't willing to spend the money that some of these companies are asking Gibson and Fender. I mean, what? I mean, look, custom shop Les Pauls that are $7,000 are too much freaking money. You have 1% of customers who are buying those guitars. And good for you if you are one of those customers that can afford to buy those guitars. But realistically, a lot of those guitars are not selling. And so right now, I think used guitars are king. Used guitars are really what people want because you can get a heck of a good deal for a lower price than a custom shop price. Fender has absolutely flooded the market, in my opinion, with so many Stratocasters, Telecasters, Jazzmasters, vintage reissue style guitars. And how long have they been doing it? They've been doing it for a long time. They're one of my favorite companies ever. I love Fender so much. But there are a ton of Fenders out there. Well, we had the AVRI, the American Vintage Reissue. Then we had the AVRI 2. Then we have the vintage reissues. Now we're on the vintage 2. We have the Vintera styles if you aren't looking to spend a USA piece. So those are the Mexican-made guitars, which are still extremely expensive. So maybe you are a younger player or you're just not looking to spend, $2,000 on a Stratocaster, a plank of wood with some strings on it. Well, now, you can with the Vintera, which still is that kind of style of the vintage kind of thing. You can do like a 60s with a rosewood fingerboard or a 50s with a maple fingerboard, that kind of stuff. And some real changes are coming. Recently, we had a bunch of music retailers go under, right? So we had Sam Ash. And I remember when I did a video on Sam Ash going under and how much it affected everybody. And here in Tampa, where I am, we had a ton of people come in because now they're not going to Sam Ash. So it knocked out one of the main games. You got Guitar Center, you had Sam Ash, and you had Replay Guitar Exchange, the guitar shop I work for. With Sam Ash gone, you're either going to one or the other. So we got a ton of Sam Ash people, and a lot of those people are, going to be looking for better guitars than what Guitar Center will will carry. And so in some ways it was nice for Replay, but in other ways it sucks for the industry as a whole because it creates a hole in the local guitar economy, right? And so now it's only us and Guitar Center, and as of recently, the announcement has been made that Replay Guitar Exchange is closing, and that freaking sucks, dude. Not only does it suck for me personally because now, obviously I'm losing my job in 2 months, but also everybody in the Tampa and the Bay Area here I don't know what the heck they're going to do if they want a really nice guitar. I guess you're going to have to go to Guitar Center. And, I love that Guitar Center sells guitars. I love the art of the guitar, but let's be real, Guitar Center is not the same as Replay Guitar Exchange or another high-end guitar shop. They're very cookie cutter, they're very corporate. And so maybe some of these big corporate companies are doing okay. Maybe I'm sorry, not Sam Ash, obviously they're not doing okay. Maybe Sweetwater is doing okay. But even still, I have to it's suggested to me that Sweetwater's struggling as well because, if you go on their website, they're breaking MAP, which is the minimum advertised price. They are slashing prices. They are being extremely aggressive as well. Everybody is just slashing prices on new gear because new gear is not selling because people don't want to spend the prices because money right now is tight. And so all these music retailers going under, I have no idea what the heck people are going to do for guitars. What are they going to do for guitar repair in the Tampa Bay area? I guess everybody better learn how to repair. There is one other guitar repair of Tampa Bay, and they're great. They're great guys. I love those guys. But, they're a long wait time. And now everybody's going to be going to them, so everybody's going to be waiting. So there's going to be a massive hole or a massive opportunity for someone who has the money and the financial backing to start a nice guitar shop in today's economy. Meaning they have to be willing to personally guarantee a building, to personally guarantee a staff, overhead, and then, of course, the gear to sell and have an online presence and everything. And it is somewhat of a risk right now with the guitars being an amenity and not a need, right? Because right now, my generation, people from 25 to 40 years old, we're looking to solidify our homes, start families, or really get solidified in our careers. And guitars are a bonus item. They're fun. Yeah, they're freaking sweet. We love to play guitars, but we are also looking for the important things in life, like I said, having a home. And none of my friends right now can really afford to buy homes. Maybe like 1 out of 10 of my friends are like, yes, I am closing on a home, and good for them. I'm very happy that they could do that, but most of us cannot afford to do that. And so things like bonus items like guitars are, of course, going to fall by the wayside. And if you want to get married right now or have children, well, that's freaking expensive as hell. Like me, I am taking my child to daycare, which is $625 every 2 weeks. So he has to go to daycare because I have to work. And if you don't go to daycare, by the way, like if I take him out, you still have to pay for it. So it's this never-ending loop of fuckery where it's so expensive. So I have to work in order for him to go to daycare. And if he doesn't go to daycare, well, then I can't work. And of course, it's been like that forever. But if $625 is going towards that, well, then every 2 weeks, that's $1,200, which is a mortgage payment. A mortgage payment in like 2018, because now mortgage payments are, like $2,100 or something. And I would say that I've got no freaking money for guitars. And maybe that's why it's slow. Maybe that's why it's a buyer's market. And so it kind of goes into supply and demand. There are so many guitars out there. The market is flooded with them. And people are wanting to buy used. Like I said, used guitars are king. People are making offers. people are making offers more than they are buying new. In fact, I would say very, very little of the guitars that we're selling currently are being sold at MAP price, meaning we have to advertise or send offers, and when we send them, they're being immediately counter-offered. It's freaking brutal. And yeah, I guess people are just very price sensitive right now. And so, like I said, I'm not an economic strategist. I think that this is partly still due to the COVID backlash, and I'll talk about that a little bit and explain my experience working in the guitar shop, what that was like. Because I'm going through some like crazy stages now of like first, sadness, now somewhat anger, and then finally, hopefully, into the acceptance stage of like, this is where we are, it's evolving. And I think it's because of COVID. And so when COVID happened, we're here in Tampa, Florida, and we closed for like 2 or 3 weeks. And we sold like freaking every guitar that we had. It was the most busiest time we've ever had online. We did a crazy amount of business because here in Florida, we were lucky to still be able to be open and operate business. We were still able to do business, and we continued to sell guitars. It was great. But the manufacturers like PRS, Gibson, Fender, whoever, everybody else, if you weren't in Florida, like a lot of these guys had to be closed. I remember PRS being forced to be closed. I remember ESP in Japan, like they were forced to be closed. Open, closed, open, closed. And from what I heard, one of my guys told me that a lot of the head dudes over at ESP couldn't financially make that work. So a lot of the head luthiers that actually work for ESP ended up leaving. I don't know if that's true, but that is just crazy. But it would make sense. And so companies like PRS, well, they need to still stay afloat, right? They're still a business. But if they're forced closed, well, they're going to need some money. We need to make money, and we've sold all of our guitars. So PRS then says, well, we would originally do like a $50,000 to $100,000 order or whatever, but we're going to ask for an extra large order so that we are able to basically make these guitars and then have some continued in production for you, so that you'll still continue to land guitars out in the future. And so that's exactly what we did. We did these extra large orders. And not all the guitars landed at once. A lot of them started to trickle in, or they were like a year or 2 years wait. And I remember it just taking freaking forever to get a lot of these guitars in. And this was the COVID whiplash effect. Now, once everything landed, be it from PRS, be it from Gibson, be it from Fender, especially Fender. There were so many Fenders. Once everything landed, well, now it's time to do the next order for the next year, like 2023 or whenever it was. But we just had all these guitars land almost seemingly all at once. Because, like I said, stuff was starting to trickle in, but once they were able to actually be open for a while and really work and really get that production line going, they were able to get us the full orders. And once everything landed, well, now we need another order, except for we're completely stocked. But they're still going to need to make more money in order to stay open. So it's like, again, like a dog trying to chase its tail or a snake eating itself. It wasn't sustainable that way. And I'm thinking that we're still kind of in some backlash of that. I would be really interested to see what other people think on this. Again, like I'm not an economic like elitist or anything like that, but it's really that's kind of what happened. And so now we've still never fully recovered from this. Like I would say that the guitar market is absolutely flooded with guitars. And that is why people still like to go to used guitars. And there are so many Fenders, and there were so many PRS guitars, and there were so many Gibson guitars. I remember, too, at the time, I think like PRS was just opening its new factory. And Fender was making some large purchases in the business as well, and a lot of big changes, coming out with a bunch of new lines. And so there was just way too many guitars at high prices. And people were buying them very, very slowly. And if we take a look at the economy, and I don't want to get too deep into this, but this is just my observation because I do invest when I can into the stock market. And so we take a look at the S&P 500, which is up, and I also invest in like stuff like Tesla, and I also invest in Nvidia and other cool tech stocks when I can, which isn't a lot of money because, again, money is tight right now because everything is so expensive. Everything is in the green, but I look around at everything else in my freaking life and it's seemingly in the red. Like, I am spending so much money on everything else, like my home, daycare, cost of groceries, insurance rates, everything else, that it's just so hard. And so it's maybe being all propped up on, common tech and the AI bubble. And then everything else underneath is just like not really doing great. And especially guitars, which are falling by the wayside. And we've also seen this with a bunch of companies closing recently within the last couple of years, like Fernandez. Fernandez is the first one that comes to mind. They were a cool guitar company. I would sell them pre-owned every now and then as they would get traded into the guitar shop. They are a decent guitar. I have enjoyed every single one that I've ever played, but they're no more. They have gone under. A month or two ago, we had G&L go under. And in my opinion, with G&L, they were a fantastic guitar. They're basically like a Strat, right? Leo Fender designed. But they were still very niche, right? So they were basically like a Fender Strat. But if I wanted to sell a G&L, and you didn't know what a G&L is, like you're watching this or listening to this podcast, then you probably know what a G&L is because you are a guitar nerd in the first place to have been listening as part of my audience. But for the vast majority of people that I would try to sell guitars to, G&L is not the first guitar that comes to their mind when they think Strat. Of course, it's going to be Fender. So then you have to explain the story of G&L every single time you want to sell it, making it a much more difficult guitar to sell. And sure, it is a fantastic guitar, and I have played some really kick-ass G&L guitars, but they're still much harder. I'm going to sell 10 Fenders for every one G&L that I sell, put it that way. So they have gone under. And if, by the way, if I were Fender, I would be super interested in buying up G&L and the name G&L, and then just shelving the idea. Like if I were them, like just start to like corner the market on Strats, because that's basically what they are, right? They are basically a Fender Strat. And if Fender buys them or somebody bought them, let's just say Fender bought them, I would literally put that up like, no, we're not going to make G&L anymore. We already own the Strat. Like, it just takes competition straight off the market. That's brutal, but I guess that's the way business goes. At least that's what I think in my head. We also had Hofner a couple of days ago, who they are in some very financial dire straits as well right now. And with Hofner, those instruments are hard to sell as well. And those are also great instruments. But I think that really the guys who love Hofner also love the Beatles. And yeah, there are younger people who love the Beatles. I love the Beatles, but I usually don't hear the younger crowd talk about the Beatles nearly as much as the older crowd does. And Hofner really had Paul McCartney as their icon, right? That's kind of like what they were clinging onto. But as more and more of the Beatles guys die, there is going to be less and less of that market. And I think that it's just, again, not a bass that we would sell all the time. And the German ones, dude, they were freaking sick. If I ever got the opportunity to, or the extra money, I would personally buy one of their basses because they're awesome. But they're just not a bass that you would sell all the time, the violin bass. And it's an absolute shame. They're a great company, and we're just seeing lots of stuff happening, lots of big changes. I know I said I'm not trying to be all doom and gloom, but it's looking kind of murky in the horizon. I'll just say that. Lots of people going out of business, myself included, our guitar shop included, and it's just looking really crazy out there. Let me know what you guys think. Don't hesitate to reach out. I want to know your thoughts. Do I not know what I'm talking about? Maybe not. But this has just been my experience over 10 years and what I've seen. And I love all of these companies dearly. I love the guitar industry. I love the guitar world, but it is just a tough one right now. Thank you guys so much for watching or listening if you're listening. My name is Cliffhanger. This is the Mojo Dojo, and I'll catch you guys the next time that I see you. Peace.